Hello everyone, I'm Alice from Uganda and you're tuned in to Climate Action Figures.
Hello and welcome to the 70th edition, that's 70, can you believe it? Edition of Climate Action Figures. My name is John Whidden, and this week on the show you get to meet Alice. But first, this week's Quick Fix, which comes to us from Linda. Linda says, purchase clothing at thrift or consignment stores and repurpose them. Get out your sewing machine and add a little trim or a pocket. Use the basic item to create something unique that you love to wear. So thank you very much to Linda for sharing that, and welcome, Alice.
Hello everyone.
It is wonderful to have you here. And what do you think about that Quick Fix, Alice?
It's quite interesting to me because I'm one of the users of thrifted clothes. To me, it's a good one because it's cost effective and you get to design what you feel like you should. And it's like turning waste into treasure.
Now, you are joining us from Uganda. What part of Uganda are you in?
In the northeastern Uganda, Karamoja sub-region.
And what kind of wildlife do you see? When we think of Uganda, we think of wonderful wildlife, primates, beautiful birds, maybe lions. What do you see on a regular basis there?
We get to really admire the serenity. You know, we stay with wild animals in some of the corridors, the game reserves within the region. So we see antelopes. And we are blessed to be bordering the National Game Park, Kidepo National Park. So we get to drive in there and see different animals, the lions, the buffaloes, the elephants, and so on. Yeah.
And I have to ask, what is the temperature there right now?
We are at 21 degrees.
We're at about -3, which is pretty warm for this time of year, but maybe you don't think so.
I think so.
Speaking about your region, Alice, I'm curious to know if climate change is a big item on people's minds.
Yeah, our region is vulnerable to climate change, and it's one of the regions of Uganda which has really felt the impact of climate change. In the year 2021, we had food insecurity, hunger crisis in Karamoja sub-region, which claimed a lot of lives and people. I really feel like it is one of the most vulnerable regions when it comes to climate change. Long dry spells in some months, let's say June, July, August, every year, where we have dry spells and too much wind. I mean, it could even carry the roofs of the buildings. We also do have sometimes water scarcity where people have to move long distances to get this water. It's really getting worse as time goes on. We've also had underproductivity of the soils. Farmers having to grow a very big portion of land, but what is cultivated is really very, very little to sustain the livelihoods of people. And so Karamoja is really vulnerable to climate change.
Clearly, the most critical issue of the ones you've just mentioned is going to be food and water security. Is that an ongoing problem, or does it come and go depending on the season?
It comes and goes depending on the season, but at least every year we do face a challenge of water scarcity and food insecurity.
It's fairly widely accepted that the developed world has caused a lot of the climate problems in the things they have done and the things they have not done. Is there a sense in your region that there is a blame of the developed world, since we're really at fault for causing a lot of the problems that you're experiencing?
I really believe that the developed countries or developed societies are causing these effects. We're feeling the effect that they cause. And okay, let me just zero it down to even Uganda as a country. Communities that are far from the city are facing the irritating air right from the city. You know, you cannot stop air from circulating. Developed communities cause impact, like the negative impacts of climate change to the other communities that are not developed.
Alice, you're a part of the Indigenous community there. Can you tell us a little bit about that background?
I come from the Ik Indigenous minority community, and we are believed to have migrated from Egypt and settled in the Kidepo National Game Park before it was gazetted. In the year 1957, when it was gazetted, we were forced out of the game park area, so we had to move southwards towards the mountains. So we ideally settled on the northern part of Kabong district in Karamoja region, and we border South Sudan from the north, and then we border Kenya from the east. So we basically are on the borders of the two countries with Uganda. We do speak a community language that is quite different from the entire region. We are estimated to be 16,000 Ik people. So we are quite a small number, and naturally we are lovers of nature. We are good custodians of nature. We have coexisted with nature, and we believe that nature is our survival. We are good at conserving the environment. We believe that when you cut a tree, you've denied yourself survival. So we basically, the Ik people, prune the trees. If they have to use it for home use, they have to just prune, but not cutting the entire tree. We plant through the trees, agroforestry. We love it so much. That is what I could really say about the Ik people.
That's very interesting. I have a whole bunch of questions for you. As you were speaking about your region, you were displaced by a game park. And now we tend to think of game parks as great. They're preserving the natural flora and fauna. But clearly it's not always great because it pushes people out of their natural regions. Tell us a little bit about that debate.
Being evicted or being moved out of the game park meant we lost our connections. Partly we lost our connections because in the game park is where we used to have cultural sites, is where we used to have the fertile soils that our ancestors left for us. So it's quite back and forth with the government because we really feel like we still need to connect with our ancestors. We still need to connect with our background. We still need to connect with our lands. We still need to connect with our cultural sites. So we stay where we are, but we still feel something is missing.
Do you feel that game parks are a positive part of the direction that conservation is taking?
Yeah, I do. I do really feel they are good when it comes to conservation.
How do we reconcile displacing people so that we have those natural areas with maintaining those natural areas?
In the community right now, people are compensated for what they lost. And they have a fund that is brought to the community to develop the community. So it makes us feel like, yeah, we gave in, but it is also paying back the community. So that is the reconciliation process that the community and the game park has taken.
And is that enough? You've lost that connection with your historic land. Is that enough to compensate?
It's not really enough. I believe people should be given a chance to once in a while reconnect with their cultural sites, and they should protect those sites, not to destroy them.
Should Indigenous people be left, even if it's in a game park, left to live in that game park? Is that possible?
It's not really possible because we're obviously brought out. So I believe like it's an injustice. We had to be brought out.
A few months ago, Alice, we spoke with Free, who is a member of the North American Indigenous community. And then we spoke with Kim, who's a member of the South American Indigenous community in Guyana. So you're the third person we've had the fortune of talking with on climate action figures, who is a fellow from the Indigenous Youth Fellowship program. And thanks again to Byron for connecting us. We'll get back to that in a second, but I just want to mention something that Free said when we talked with him. He said Indigenous people steward less than 20% of the land on Earth, but in that is contained 80% of the planet's remaining biodiversity. I have not fact-checked those numbers. Free seemed like a guy who would fact-check those numbers. That seemed quite staggering to me. Do you want to comment on your thoughts about that, and if you see the same kind of thing in your country?
In our country, most of the indigenous communities are the ones who protect the environment. And Actually, the bigger portion of the ecosystems and the environment largely is being protected by the indigenous community. This is how we are brought up to love what is in our surrounding. So when it comes to how we coexist with it's because of what nature gives us. Personally, I am a product of using of local herbs. We never used to have the modern medicines and modern drugs and others. So we used to get the barks of the trees, the roots of the trees. So it was quite important that we do not really get rid of these trees. We nurture them and protect them. We greatly or largely protect the environment. It's where we used to get the food. It's where we used to get even the animals like being kept, the wild animals that are being kept and hunted. The value we get from the environment that has pushed us to protect it and to respect it, not to destroy them.
Alice, you said you were taught to love your surroundings by your community, your Ik community, your family. How does that happen, and how will you continue to do that and pass that along to future generations?
We're taught by our elders to nurture and love the environment. So we believe that even in the modern days, there is a need to look back. Was it beneficial for us to love the environment? Is it beneficial, and what more? Or how can we continuously get to pass it on to other generations? People are gradually losing the sense of love for the environment, but we've brought in elders and youth, like the interconnect of elders and the young generation right now, where we have sittings or dialogues where we share stories, where they pass on the knowledge to the young people, and of course literature, writing them down, noting them down, passing it to schools, documenting how the indigenous knowledge could be passed, the knowledge that our elders have, we pass them on to the next generation.
We mentioned that you are or were a fellow from the Indigenous Youth Fellowship program. And how did you get involved in that?
It was a call for application. I did apply, and I'm happy that I got selected under the Indigenous Youth Fellowship 2024. You have to get the project that best suits your community. And to me, climate change was a threat to us. So there was need for me to come up with a project proposal looking at risks and how to mitigate them. So that's now my project was to empower youth, young people and women to champion climate change solutions through environmental restoration, climate education, and local entrepreneurship.
And what specific examples do you now see because of that project in your community?
On climate education, we had series of capacity building and leadership on climate actions and solutions. We had youth come in, and then we trained them on different solutions that they would undertake in the community. Let's say tree planting, climate smart agriculture, forest restoration. We had to reach youth who are in schools, both primary and secondary level, and we had to create school clubs like the Climate Rising Voices school clubs and the different initiatives, different activities. They would have debates on climate change, climate science, and also all the interrelating topics on climate change. We had to task each of them to how to come up with a project that they would think will be a solution at their homes first and also the community at large. And then they go back to the community and carry on the small projects and the ideas that they have. They go and implement it in the communities. On local entrepreneurship, we had to bring in women to construct energy saving stoves. So these energy saving stoves would reduce on the number of wood fuel that they use on a regular basis. So they would use it both for home consumption, and some of them would sell, empowering them economically. I believe that they would even protect nature more when they benefit from nature economically. The other was environmental protection. We had to do forest restoration of 2 forests in the community. We had to plant and nurture the indigenous trees that are seemingly disappearing. We also had community awareness sessions that would cover the entire region. So we had a series of radio talk shows in the region.
You mentioned entrepreneurship. Why was the focus on women for that?
We believe that women relate with the environment. In my community, for example, women are the ones who go out to look for the wood fuel that is used for cooking at home. Women are the ones who actually do much of the agriculture, so they interact more with nature than the men. So if they feel the impact of climate change, then they should be the ones to create the solutions themselves, to bring their minds to realize that the more they cut that, the more they prune that trees, the more they use a lot of wood fuel, it will cause harm to the environment. That's how we had to really focus on the women when it came to local entrepreneurship.
It sounds like you had some wonderful programs going, so congratulations on that, and we hope that continues into the future. I asked Kim and Free a question that I would like to ask you now, and that is, should we be looking more to Indigenous people regarding solutions to the climate crisis?
They have this knowledge of how they coexist with nature. So I really believe that there is need to base on what the Indigenous people have to say, because they have lived with nature. They know what it takes to love nature. They know what it takes to make sure that this nature is not destroyed. So I believe really if we are to protect nature, we should think of those protecting nature first. Yeah.
Now, Alice, we are almost out of time, unfortunately, but before we let you go, we should ask you what the climate action is that you've chosen to share with us today.
Yeah, my climate action for today and going forward is planting and caring for the Indigenous trees. Because to me, I believe our Indigenous trees have multiple uses. For instance, we do have trees that have habitats for bees. They have a hole in between there, which can give us the honey. To me, I feel like protecting them and even planting more of them so that we could not lose them is something that everyone else could actually opt for and take it as an action plan.
Now, Alice, you've mentioned the challenges of food and water insecurity and climate change. In the midst of all that going on around you, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope is when I see young people, communities taking action, smaller actions to make bigger actions. When I see girls, when I see boys, when I see community members taking responsibility of the environment and elders willingly transitioning the Indigenous knowledge to the young people, I really feel there will be change. There will be more impact in time to come. Hope to me is not just a feeling, it is the actions taken at grassroots levels. Seeing little ants planting trees that they may not actually even sit under them, but future generations will. That's what really gives me hope.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that, for sharing your perspective with us, and for joining us today, Alice.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, dear listener or viewer, for joining us. If you like what you've heard here today, please hit the like button on our social media. And if you would like to hear from more fascinating action figures, subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channel. We will be back again next week, same time, same place, to hear from another climate action figure. Until then,
go figures.
This has been Climate Action Figures. Our show is produced and hosted by John Whidden. Our creative consultant is Kayla McIntosh. Our theme song is Hawaii Vacation by Tavari. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Climate Action Figures. That's all one word. And if you have any other questions or comments that arose from this or any episode, feel free to reach out to us at climateactionfigures@gmail.com. And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another Climate Action Figure.